Okay, welcome to this episode of the Smart Leaders Sell podcast. My name is Jessica Lorimer, sales coach and leadership expert, and I'm kind of jazzed about today's show. I'm going to be honest, I say this every week. I get really excited about the deep dive trainings on Monday, but this one came up as the result of a sad event. So I say sad, and I don't know whether you're one of those people that can hear me smiling in my voice, but we had a little event last week that I'll talk about in a sec, because it's led to the creation of this episode. And so today's episode is all about how your environment affects your sales performance. Okay, so how your physical environment affects it, how your mental environment affects it, all those good things, and what you can do in order to improve those things and in order to make sure that you have the best results that you can get. So last week, you might remember I came onto the podcast a couple of weeks ago and I told you that Sam had become a fish keeper. We got a tank. We spent a lot of money on it. We got 5 fish. They were doing very, very well. We were quite proud of ourselves. They were having babies. It was glorious. Okay. We were literally like top of the world fish keepers, awarding ourselves secret awards, etc., etc., etc. Anyway, Sam destroyed this. Actually, I can't really blame Sam. I sort of am, but I'm not, because it wasn't his fault in any way, shape or form. And obviously I'm saying that in case he ever listens to the podcast. But seriously, what happened was we bought some shrimp and they died within about 3 days, which wasn't a good sign. We couldn't really work out why they died. Shrimp are just really sensitive. Before anyone thinks that I'm kind of laughing about this, I find the death of animals, all animals, tragic, like genuinely really upset. And as I go through the story, you'll kind of hear about it. But I'm at that stage where I kind of have to laugh. So anyway, the shrimp died after about 3 days. It's very sad. We had to kind of poke them out of the tank. They died in really awkward places. So it's, kind of difficult and undignified. And anyway, scientifically, what happens, for those of you who are not like top fish keepers, although nor am I at this point, what tends to happen in the life cycle of a tank is that ammonia is generated through fish doing their fishy thing, okay? And it's really toxic to them. So fish create toxic waste. Who knew? It goes through the life cycle. Eventually it's, turned by good bacteria into nitrite, which again is still really toxic to them. And then it turns into nitrate, which is toxic, but it's not that bad, okay? Anyway, the death of the shrimp changed the life cycle in the tank. So suddenly we went from having this glorious clear water, babies everywhere, all swimming, happy dancing fish, to, oh my God, we have tons of ammonia in the tank and all of our fish are dying. So it was a really, really depressing moment when, and Sam wasn't here, he was away at work, and I looked into the tank and I could see a floating body. And it was horrendous. Honestly, it was about 11 p.m. at night. I'd been sat here casually, glass of wine, watching television. And I looked to my right and it's floating. And I was like, oh my God, it's dead. What do I do? Because I'm not very good with dead things, okay? I get very upset about it. I can't even watch films where any animal dies. Marley and Me is not ever going to be on my watch list because I just get really upset. So at 11 o'clock at night, I call Sam. He thinks that there's something very, very wrong. It's just me. I'm just upset about the dead fish. And he says, okay, take it out the tank. And, I have to go and flush it down the toilet. It's heartbreaking. I come back to the tank and I do the kind of, I'm going to count the other fish. And I look around and I can't find one of them. And sure enough, it's dead at the bottom of the tank. Anyway, the next morning after flushing the second fish, I get up and I come in and there's another dead fish. And this went on for a period of 7 days. Okay. We lost all of our fish bar 1 plus 2 shrimp. All the babies are gone. We've been doing daily water changes. It's a nightmare, basically. I've gone from feeling very, very smug about my fish keeping abilities to feeling like I am, quote from Sam, the fish killer, because they don't actually die while he's at home. They die while I'm at home. It's like they can smell my fear of death. So anyway, I was voxering one of my best buds about this, and I was saying, I can't believe all these fish are dead. Like, this is horrible. I feel really mean watching the last one because I'm kind of on tenterhooks all the time about whether it's just going to die or whether it's going to live. And she was like, that would make a great podcast episode, because we were talking about toxic environments. I was explaining the life cycle of the tank and the toxicity of the water, and that's why it's killing them, etc., etc. And I was like, you know what? You are right. It would make a great episode, because there are so many times in life, and certainly when it comes to sales, that we do this to ourselves. We sabotage our environments, or we stay in environments that are not conducive to results. Now, unfortunately for my fish, they couldn't jump out of the tank, and we really did do everything possible to save them. I stayed up long nights kind of talking to them and just trying to coax them to live, but it didn't happen. However, when it comes to sales, there are lots of things that you can be doing inadvertently that are really stopping you succeeding, and that actually you can turn around really quickly. And that's what I want to talk about today. Making sure that your environment is conducive to selling, making sure that you're getting the results that you want to, and making sure that you get the results every single time, and that you're not in that kind of feast or famine mode, because there are reasons why that happens. So the first thing is, and Jim Rohn says this much better than I ever will, you are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. Now, we had Sarah Christensen on the show a couple of weeks ago, and she talked about the importance of masterminds. And I firmly believe that in order to be successful in business and successful in sales, you have to surround yourself with the right people. Now, when I was back in my corporate days, I was the stupidest person in the room, and I was okay with that, because day after day, I was sat next to my directors, I was sat next to managers, I was sat next to incredible salespeople. These people had been doing it for years, they were experienced, they were amazing, and they had all the words. They knew how to handle all the objections, they knew how to do all of those things at a time when I didn't. And being surrounded by those people who were incredibly motivated, who were driven, who were successful, who were smart, who had this dedication to consistently learning and developing new skills, made me become that kind of person. I then became dedicated to learning more ways of handling objections. I became really dedicated to being the best salesperson on the floor. Now, yes, not all of the traits that I picked up were good ones, okay? I picked up a love of swearing and a love of all bad words, okay, except a couple. There are a couple of bad words that I will never ever use. But I also picked up this serious competitiveness that for a long time actually really made me do really well in terms of sales, but held me back in terms of building strong relationships with people, because I was always kind of very competitive, wanted to get my promotion, wanted to get things done. And sometimes that came at the expense of people. I'm not perfect. We've all been there in our early 20s when we think we are the best person in the world, and arrogance is a thing. Okay, like, it happens. However, in the online space, sometimes it can become really isolating. We don't surround ourselves with people, And what I noticed in corporate was that when I was spending time with these successful people, I became more successful. Equally, there were also the water cooler people. And if you've ever worked in an office, you'll know exactly what I mean. But those people who all day, they stand at the drinks machine and they moan all the time. And everyone else in the office avoids them and takes like the detour route, the long way around the toilets, up the stairs, back through the desks, just so they don't have to listen about the latest drama in their life. And there is a correlation, a direct correlation between who you spend your time with and the results that you get. If you spend your time with people who are successful, who are dedicated, driven, ambitious, and smart, you are going to pick up on those things. If you spend your time with the water cooler people, negative, whiny, love drama, that's kind of where you're going to end up, because that's what you're seeing all the time. That's what becomes your new normal, okay? Now, when we look at the Facebook world, it can be quite isolating. It can be quite difficult to find the right people. So, if you're looking for people to learn from, to spend time with, to help you grow and develop, and that you can help grow and develop too, you need to be looking for masterminds, memberships, expanding your network with incredible people, And you will find that you expand all of those positive things around being more successful, making more money, generating more referrals, being more positive, and being happier generally. What we can see though is that free Facebook groups can be a kind of haphazard mishmash of people, mindsets, and skills. And so sometimes what happens is we end up going into a group where actually we're not learning, and it is full of water cooler people. They don't want to learn. They kind of say one thing and do another. There's lots of drama, and they're way more focused on bitching about somebody else's success than they are on creating their own. And so if you end up in those places, get out really quickly, because otherwise, as we've been discussing, you are going to end up getting caught. No matter how nice a person you are, no matter how dedicated you are to success, you are going to end up getting involved in the latest drama. You are going to get involved in the latest gossip. You are going to get involved in this kind of negative, whingy, mind gremlin chatter place that you don't necessarily want to be in. Okay? So that's the first thing. People. Your environment in terms of who you spend time with and who you value is going to be huge for you. The second thing is comparisonitis. Now, I say this all the time, like one of those adverts on TV, where they say speed kills. I take those adverts very seriously, but the voice just gets me every time. Comparisonitis kills. Seriously. The newsfeed is full of what I call perky Sues. The people who are just putting the best bits of their life on Facebook and make everyone else feel like crap. I have people who do this. I have many friends who are incredibly successful in business. They also have better haircuts than anybody deserves. They are ridiculously attractive. They have glowing skin. They've got beautiful children. They go on holiday regularly, and they are just brilliant. And if they weren't so nice, I'd probably hate them a little bit. Okay. But sometimes we feel like it's all we see in our news feeds. As entrepreneurs, we're often targeted by adverts from people who are portraying their life this way. There's no reality there. They're not showing the late night arguments they're having with their partner because they're constantly working. They're not showing the bit where they shout at their kids in the supermarket because, it happens. They're not showing any of the real life pieces that make up life's rich tapestry. They're just showing the good bits. And so what can happen is we fall into this kind of comparisonitis pattern where we assume that everyone else is better than we are. We compare ourselves and our lives to their lives. We compare what we look like. We compare our sales strategies. We compare our coaching programs. We compare our social media posts. We compare our email, newsletters, all of these things constantly. And what comparisonitis does is it means that you're no longer taking inspiration. You're no longer looking at things and being motivated. You're actually getting yourself stuck in paralysis. You're not taking action anymore because you're stuck in this kind of hamster wheel of seeing somebody whose life or business looks perfect, looking at all the ways that they're different to you, beating yourself up for all the things that you're not doing, continuing to not do anything because you have no time, because you're constantly comparing yourself and constantly criticizing yourself. And you fall back into this vicious cycle of, now I'm not doing any better, I'm getting worse, life's getting worse, business is getting worse, income's getting worse, and still all I'm seeing is Perky Sue having this amazing life, and I feel like crap. Comparisonitis is a hard one to get out of, and there are people out there who are way more qualified than I am to tell you how to help yourself if you're struggling with comparisonitis. But the first thing is that the mute button is your friend. You can now mute people on Facebook. You can unfollow them. All of my friends are now wondering who I've muted. But seriously, it's okay if you are going through a patch where you're constantly comparing your programs, your pricing, your offers, your posts, newsletters, etc. It's okay to mute other people who are in similar spaces to you. Even if you believe there is no such thing as a competitor, and that it's all about collaboration, it can still be really hard to see it all the time. So it is okay to hit the mute button. It is okay to unfollow people. It's okay to unsubscribe from email lists. You can always go back to them later if you want to, when you feel better, when you are able to see the message, and when you're able to go back to that place of inspiration and motivation rather than comparisonitis. And this is a thing about our environment. Comparisonitis is toxic. It's not about the impact that other people are intentionally causing us. It's about our brains, how we feel, and the toxic elements that we're bringing to our daily lives. And it kills your sales. If you are spending tons and tons and tons of time wondering what somebody else is doing, trying to emulate somebody else, constantly beating yourself up or being self-critical, you're not taking action. You're not giving yourself time to implement. You're not giving yourself time to sell, and your results are going to reflect that. So if you're in that state of comparisonitis, now is the time to lock, stock, and drop that stuff and get it out of your life, get it out of your newsfeed, out of your inbox, so that you can go back to focusing on your lane, focusing on what you do best, focusing on your voice, your message, and that will make you more successful. When I first started out, in the Gina DeVee time of coaching. And honestly, her programs are beautiful. They had all these lovely sales pages, lovely photos. Everything was pre-recorded. There were no screw-ups. Everybody had professionally branded photo shoots. It was just gorgeous visually. And I felt like such an imposter. I would look at these people and, all I could see all the time was, well, they had a photo shoot in Paris. That's why they're so successful so quickly. It took me a long time to get over that. Okay. It took me a really long time to realize that instead of following everyone else's voice and trying to be successful that way, I had to carve out my own space. I had to be okay with being a little bit eccentric, a little bit quirky. Some people would call me weird. I'm also okay with that, right? But, trying to use somebody else's voice, trying to emulate them, trying to be that person is not going to make you successful. Standing out on your own, being different, having your niche, having your clear message it will make you successful, it will make you sales, and ultimately it will make you happier because you're not spending half your life trying to pretend that you're someone doing something that you're not. Okay. And then the third one is get okay with being coachable. I honestly really love it when I am the dumbest person in the room. It makes me feel great because I love to be a sponge. I love to learn. I love to hear what other people are doing. I get really, really excited at listening to things that people are passionate about and that I can learn from and then execute in my business. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to say that you don't know things. It's okay to surround yourself with people who are doing better than you are, who are really smart, who have been working at this for a long time. And it's okay to ask them questions. Ultimately, we all want to support each other. Together, we rise. And if you are coachable, if you're somebody who asks for help, who actually takes the advice on board and implements it, you are going to get better so much quicker. You are actively creating an environment in which you're learning, executing, implementing, and generating results from. If you set up that kind of environment, you're going to get better at sales. It takes practice, sure. But if you set yourself up in the right way, if you're surrounding yourself with the right people, if you're taking constructive feedback, if you are implementing new changes, you're taking action regularly, and you're not kind of prissy about, oh, if I say this, am I going to look really dumb? Or, oh, if I say this, does it make me look like I'm less experienced than I am? If you take your pride or ego aside and you actually get in the ring with some amazing people and you let them give you feedback and you take it on board and you implement it, your business is going to skyrocket. Okay, you're taking yourself out of that toxic environment and you're putting yourself into an environment where you're going to thrive and grow and succeed. And that's really important. But it does rely on two things. It involves you being coachable. It involves you being open to feedback. It involves you actually taking that feedback and taking action on it, which we've all been guilty of not doing. But also it involves you identifying the right people, okay, to be coached by, to identify the right people to take advice from. Now, I don't mean to be rude, but if my choice is taking advice by somebody who's credible, somebody who's experienced, somebody who has written for a few magazines, who has qualifications, and all those kinds of things, over a random person that started with an MLM business last week, I know who I'm going to choose. I know who is more credible. Okay. We need to do our due diligence online. It's very easy to go with the person who's most visible in your newsfeed, but are they the most qualified to give you advice on your business? Have they done what you want to do? Have they been through that experience? Have they coached or mentored other people through it? Can they help troubleshoot your problems? Are they actually as far ahead as you think they are? Or are they just kind of like a week or two ahead of you? Ultimately, you need to be looking at reputable sources. You need to be doing your due diligence and looking at, where do I want to take this advice from? Who do I want to take this advice from? If you're thinking about setting up a huge Facebook group, you want it to make a massive impact, you probably don't want to learn from somebody like me. My Facebook group is small in comparison to the majority of my peers. It's highly engaged, sure, and it's great for value and it's great for monetizing, but it's not a 30,000 person group. So you can't take advice from me on growing a 30,000 person group because I don't have one. I don't know how to do it. I don't want to do it. And whilst I have clients who have bigger social media followings, and I could probably give you some tips, it's not my area of expertise. However, come to me with any sales problem around new business development, generating online sales, immediate cash flow, launch planning, funnels and funnel development, even cold calling. And I'll be all over that like a mouse on cheese. And I'll be able to help you, and I'll be able to give you credible advice, and I'll be able to help you troubleshoot, because that is my area of expertise. That's what I've spent the last 12 years doing. Depressingly, I actually realized that it was 12 years and not 10, because I was talking about it with my members today. And I was like, oh, I'm 28 now. Oh, I've been doing this since I was 16 years old. And I'd forgotten about that. I'd forgotten that I was 28, not that I'd been doing it since I was 16. So it's actually 12 years instead of 10, which I usually put out on my website. So I might have to change that now. But seriously, you've got to be thinking about who are the reputable sources. Don't get disillusioned when you look at people who, and when you're taking advice from people who aren't doing as well as you are, or who aren't doing as well as you want to be doing, because ultimately those people come with their own bias. Whereas if you're taking advice and actioning things from people who are credible sources, who have done what you want to do, who have the skills to get you where you want to go, you're going to find that you are successful. Okay. So that's it. I mean, it's kind of it feels like it's been a really short episode. I don't think it actually has been, but environment is key for generating results. And I can't say it enough times. Your physical environment, where you work is important. Who you work with is important. Just because you're an online entrepreneur, it doesn't mean that you're an island. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't be talking to people all week or communicating with people all week. And also, your mental environment. How do you feel about yourself? Are you comparing yourself to other people? Are you comparing your offers constantly? Are you refreshing the newsfeed to try and get some inspiration and motivation, when really you need to be tuning into your voice? You need to be getting advice from credible sources. Environment is key for long-term success, and all of those factors play a huge part. And I think, for me, if you get one thing from this episode, it's about making sure that you are putting yourself in the right space, mentally, physically. It will get you the results that you want. Having that clear plan, having that right frame of mind, having the right strategy, taking advice, implementing, those are the things that are going to get you the results. It's not about jumping on every new sales strategy. It's not about jumping on every new piece of technology, every new video bandwagon or anything like that. It really does come down to, are you coachable? Are you asking for advice in the right places? Are you using a proven sales strategy to help you do the work, to help you get the results that you want? And are you being supported by people who really can give you the advice that you need, who are honest about where they are in their journey and giving you advice that's appropriate for you, not just things that are kind of like 3 or 4 steps ahead because that's what they happen to be selling right now? Some things to think about maybe. I'm really, really excited. We're coming up to Christmas. So the next couple of episodes, the next couple of deep dive trainings are going to be really juicy and all around selling at Christmas, launching at Christmas, and how to get the best results in what everybody seems to think is the quietest month of the year. So make sure that you watch out for those episodes. I will be back on Friday. I have an amazing guest interview, which I'm very, very excited about. And if you have enjoyed this episode, please leave a little review or feel free to email me your thoughts, jessica@jessicalorimer.com. I always want to hear from people and make sure that we're doing the best job possible for you. And if you haven't already joined the Smart Leaders Sales Society over on Facebook, make sure you do. We're coming into Christmas. We're coming into training periods, new challenges, and epic new goals for 2018. I'll see you on the other side.